There is one thing that quietly decides who has power in almost every room, every deal, every relationship, and it isn't money or status or charm. It's a single question, and everyone in the room knows the answer without saying it out loud. Who here can walk away and who can't? Watch it once and you'll see it everywhere. The person who can leave the negotiation sets the terms. The person who can leave the job gets treated better in it. The person who could walk out of the relationship is, strangely, the one it bends around. And the person who can't leave, who needs it too much, who has nowhere else to go, who would be destroyed by the loss, gets quietly, endlessly taken advantage of. Not because anyone is cruel, because they can be, because there's no cost to it. The ability to walk away is the most underrated form of power there is, and almost no one builds it on purpose. Now, I want to be careful from the very first minute, because there's an ugly version of this idea being sold everywhere. People teach walking away as a trick. Go cold, pull back to make them chase, withhold to make them anxious, use distance as a weapon to control someone. That's not what this is, and by the end, you'll see why that version is actually weakness wearing a costume. Real power isn't performing the ability to leave to manipulate someone. It's actually having it so completely that you never need to perform anything. This runs on a principle two Chinese strategists understood 23 centuries ago. One of them didn't just write about walking away at the top. He did it and became a legend for it. His name was Fan Li, Ancient Answers to Modern Walls. If that's useful, subscribe. Let's start with the mechanism, because it's colder and simpler than the dating gurus make it. Han Fei, the strategist historians call the Chinese Machiavelli, said that whoever controls what you need controls you. That's the whole thing. Every single need you have is a handle, something another person or a company or a situation can grab and use to move you. And here's the part that matters. The handle only works if you can't walk away. The paycheck controls you only because you need it and have no alternative. The relationship controls you only because you couldn't survive losing it. The approval controls you only because you can't stand to be without it. So the ability to walk away isn't really about leaving. It's about what happens to every handle on you the moment leaving becomes possible. They stop working, all of them at once. You cannot be controlled by the threat of losing something you're genuinely willing to lose. The person who can walk away has quietly disarmed every lever anyone was holding, without saying a word, without a single move. That's why it looks like power from the outside. It isn't that they're dominating anyone, it's that there's nothing to grab. Now let's talk about Fan Li, because he is the greatest example of this in history, and almost no one in the West knows him. Fan Li served a king, helped him claw back a kingdom from total defeat, and rose to the very top, the most powerful advisor in the state at the height of his success, with everything to gain by staying. And he left. Quietly, at the peak, he walked away from all of it. The title, the power, the security. Because he understood something about staying too long. He reinvented himself as a merchant, built a fortune from nothing, gave much of it away, and rebuilt it again. The histories say he did this 3 separate times. China remembers him as a god of wealth. Here's what people miss about Fan Li. His power was never the position he held. It was his proven, demonstrated ability to leave it and be fine. He knew he could walk away from the court because he'd already done the hardest version of it. He'd started from nothing and knew he could do it again. That's what made him untouchable inside the court, and it's what let him leave it. A man who can rebuild from zero cannot be threatened with loss. What are you going to take from someone who has already proven he can lose everything and recover? Pause for a second and be honest with yourself. In your life right now, a job, a relationship, a situation, where are you being treated a little worse than you should be, tolerating a little more than you should, precisely because everyone involved, including you, knows you can't afford to leave? Just name the one place, one word, hold it, because that inability to walk is the exact price you're paying, in a currency you might not have noticed. So how do you actually build the ability to walk away? Because that's the real work. Not performing distance, but becoming genuinely free to leave. The first thing is the hardest and the most important. Build the alternative before you need it. The reason most people can't walk away from anything is that they have no second option, so the current one has total power over them. The person with savings can walk away from a bad job. The person with other prospects can walk away from a bad deal. The person with a full life can walk away from a relationship that's gone wrong. You build the power to leave long before the moment you'd need it, by never letting any single thing become the only thing. The moment something becomes your only option, it owns you. The second thing is to reduce what you need, not just increase what you have. This is the part the wealth gurus never mention, and it's pure Han Fei. Every need is a handle, so you can increase your freedom two ways: by having more or by needing less. The person who needs very little is almost impossible to trap, because there's almost nothing you can threaten them with. A man who has made his peace with losing the money, the status, the approval, who genuinely needs less of it than everyone around him, walks through the world with a freedom that looks like power because it is power. Wanting less is leverage. It's the cheapest leverage there is, and it's available today before you've earned another dollar. The third thing is to actually be willing to lose it, not as a bluff, but for real. This is where the manipulators and the genuinely free part ways completely. The manipulator performs willingness to leave while secretly being desperate to stay. And that gap, that neediness underneath the act, always leaks out eventually. And the moment it does, all the power collapses. The genuinely free person isn't performing anything. They've done the internal work of accepting the loss. They've looked at the worst case, losing the job, the deal, the person, and made real peace with it. And that peace is not a technique. It can't be faked, and it doesn't need to be, because it's real. That's the difference between someone playing hard to get and someone who is simply, actually, free to go. Now, the clarification, and this is the whole ethical spine of this video, so hear it clearly. There are two completely different things that look similar from a distance, and you must not confuse them. The first is what I've been describing: becoming genuinely free, needing less, building alternatives, making peace with loss, so that no one can control you through your fears. This is sovereignty. It points inward. It's about you and what can and can't move you. It makes you harder to exploit and, as a side effect, easier to respect. The second is using withdrawal as a weapon on someone else, going cold to make a partner anxious, withholding affection to control them, weaponizing distance to keep another person off balance. This points outward. It's not freedom, it's a leash you're putting on someone else. And it's not even strong, it's a tell. Someone who has to manipulate a person into staying is revealing that they're afraid the person would leave if treated honestly. That's not the behavior of someone free. That's fear running a strategy. The genuinely free person has no need to play cold because they're not trying to trap anyone. They can be warm, open, generous, fully present, precisely because they're not afraid. Freedom lets you be kind. It's neediness that has to play games. So if you ever find yourself using walking away as a move to control someone, understand that you've left the strong position entirely and quietly joined the weak one. The goal was never to trap others. It was to make yourself impossible to trap. So let's go back to where we started, the room, and the quiet question everyone's answering without a word. Who can walk away and who can't? You want to be the one who can, not so you can lord it over anyone, not so you can play games, but because a person who can walk away is a person who finally gets to be honest, who can say the true thing, refuse the bad deal, love without desperation, and work without fear, for the simple reason that nothing in that room owns them. Fan Li could leave a kingdom because he'd made himself into a man who could rebuild from nothing. That was his real fortune. The gold was just the proof. So don't think about how to make people chase you. Think about who you're becoming. Not the person clinging to the one thing they can't afford to lose, being quietly taken advantage of because everyone knows it. The person who built the alternative, who needs less, who made peace with the loss, and who walks through every room free and is treated well precisely because they never needed to be. And here's the thing, Fan Li was one of an entire generation of Chinese minds who mapped how power and freedom actually work. The philosopher who saw that every need is a handle. The general who won by never being forced onto ground he didn't choose. We're decoding every one of them, one mind at a time. If this showed you even one place where being unable to walk away is quietly costing you, then you already understand why most people will spend their whole lives being treated exactly as badly as their inability to leave allows. A few will build the door and stop needing to use it. Decide which one you are.